Hi everybody, thank you very much for attending the panel discussion today. Today we're going to go through a hot topic and a topic which has been on everyone's lips since basically COVID hit essentially. But it's the rise of dark kitchens or virtual brands or whatever other label people are put into it these days. So with me today I've got some great friends and new friends hopefully. So guys, if you just want to introduce yourself please.
Sure. My name is... Can you guys hear me? There you go. My name is Mate, CEO, founder, co-founder of Growth Kitchen. We work with some of the best delivery brands and help them scale across our network of host kitchens. So it's us.
Faraz?
Hi everyone, thanks for having us today. Ooh, bit of feedback there. I'm Faraz, I'm the founder of the Lean Kitchen Network, and we create concepts, we create brands. We partner with kitchen operators, hotels, restaurants, pubs, bars to bring these concepts to life. Things like Doritos Diner, Heinz Breakfast. We've got a new concept with Ben & Jerry's. And the whole point is around engaging the customers, driving more on-site revenue where it's relevant, but then also giving the tech with our friends here and the brands, the tools, the marketing support to drive more revenues from those kitchens.
Hi guys, my name's Joe Heather. I'm the GM for Deliverect. Deliverect is the technology provider behind the back of these companies. We enable restaurant brands to be able to control multiple brands from multiple locations, and we have the facility in order for them to do that.
And last but not least, because it's me, my name is Chris. I'm the CRO at Kobas. We're a hospitality technology platform that offers the operational tech to facilitate the orders and operational needs of those brands in venue. One thing we actually wanted to cover off before we go into it in a little bit more detail is actually the labels that people put against these kind of concepts of the dark kitchen and the virtual brands. And it actually raised quite a big debate between us all in regards to how we tackle these and what the delineation between a dark kitchen, is it a landlord and operation virtual brand, is it a virtual brand in a hotel kitchen, etc., etc. So Faraz, I know you had something to say in regard to this.
Yeah, I think the definitions are changing, really. So when we first saw the industry growing, there was a lot of talk of dark kitchens, from a back alleyway servicing a brand, maybe an unknown brand, out to a new market. And as you were telling us earlier, companies with 20, 30 different concepts from the same kitchen. I think where we're seeing it moving is a smaller number of very well put together concepts, brands that people recognize, and also the whole dark aspect. Sometimes we're seeing really great success with having the brands live on site as well as for delivery wherever it makes sense. So shifting definitions.
And from your point of view, Mate?
Yeah, we started the company 2 years ago with the idea of giving space to some of the brands that want to scale into new areas. And very quickly we realized that the brands that we are working with, so thinking like the Athenian, for instance, or Cricket, some really, really great restaurants, they would love if we helped them cook the food as well. So we kind of moved into this licensing model where we're now working with some of the best delivery brands, and we enabled our host kitchen partners, who can be anyone really, with some spare capacity, some additional staff members who could cook our food, to cook these brands. I think that's kind of the direction, like a small number of great brands cooked across the country, near the end customers in a very, very simple way.
And I think from my point of view, when we first saw this concept rise, you just basically saw brands in a kitchen having multiple virtual opportunities to basically get land grab on the delivery platforms, with the view of at least someone will order from me, no matter what brand they're ordering from. But I think ultimately our consumer market's getting smarter, and these guys and the birth of these guys and their operation is making that service delivery level a lot higher. So it's actually becoming an operation in its own right. Joe, what's your thoughts on that?
I'd say if anyone's got a commercial kitchen that's not capacity, Mate mentioned capacity being the key word. If you're not at capacity, then absolutely virtual brands is potentially an opening for you. If you're in an area where there's a driver courier pool available, so either through Uber Eats, Deliveroo, Just Eat, or through one of the existing suppliers like Stuart or Uber Direct or Gigable, then you can facilitate a virtual brand within your existing establishment to create incremental revenue. And again, you're getting this rise of online food delivery. Why not exploit that audience and have an additional brand in place away from your existing offering?
Yeah, that nicely leads us on to the next slide, actually. So this is why consider a virtual offering. So we're all going to be using interchangeable definitions here, but you all get where we're coming from in regards to the operation. And I think one thing that I found really interesting was something me and Faraz were talking about, which was, hotels, as an example. They have kitchen operations, and they generally do services breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or just breakfast and dinner. So actually their kitchens lay dormant quite often, and they're often well equipped. So I know you've got an element to discuss in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've seen great success with hotels, bowling alleys, and those kind of venues where, first and foremost, the partner wants to drive their on-site menu. They want to drive on-site conversion. They want to get better sleeper dining ratios, more food through that kitchen. So we focus on that first, build the digital menu as the next step, and then launch delivery. Once they get used to doing the food, they get used to the quality, they get used to the items, it means that they're not doing kind of one menu on-site and a completely different thing off-site. We also have examples where we'll have a delivery-only kitchen or a restaurant who does have a separate digital order.
So Mate, if I was coming to you and I was saying, hey, I've got a great brand, what do I do?
We work with a very, very small number of brands. We work with brands who have a great presence, so people know the brand really well, so we can plug them into literally any postcode across London, at least, ideally across the country, and people will know about this brand right away. It's also very important to us that your brand would actually have some sort of an operation set up behind it that allows us to pre-cook the food in those operations. So our host partners can only do the last 10% of the cooking. So super, super simple to cook. I can train literally anyone who sits here within 30 minutes to cook any of our brands. And that's super, super key. So those are two main criteria. We're looking for a great variety of brands to work with. And then on the host side, the people that we're actually working with to cook these foods, we're only working with people who have great FSA ratings, who know what they're doing, but they might have a bit of spare capacity in their kitchens. We have halal concepts, we have vegetarian concepts, we have meat concepts, we have brands for every type of kitchen.
Thank you, Mate. I mean, obviously that's talking on a smaller scale in terms of operation, even though they need like a CPU sat behind them. But obviously for us, you work with some home brands that have probably quite stringent brand requirements and standardizations that you need to adhere to in your operation. And one of them I've seen is obviously Doritos and things like that. So how does that work for you?
So we do a lot of the work upstream with supply chain. So we'll centrally manufacture all of the key sauces and proteins. So it makes the life of the operating partner and the risk for the operating partner easier to manage. We'll then pass that to the site via the likes of breaks and bread food. We then have a very detailed training model where we'll go in and we'll train our sites, we'll go shoulder to shoulder, we'll get them up and running, we'll be there for their first service. We then provide a field service consultant that will check in with the site on a weekly basis, help them drive their business, help them manage sales, help them manage profit, and really stay close to them, looking at the ratings, give them all the data they need to do well.
Yeah, cool. So generating profit needs to generate revenue, and obviously Joe is an expert in the platform of generating revenue through these kind of offerings. What's your take on, obviously you and I get to the point where they've already considered doing it before we get involved necessarily, but where have you seen success and maybe failings as well in this kind of operation?
Like all things here, you see something done very well, something done very badly. Where it's typically done very badly is where they just try to add too much and saturate the market space. So you might end up with one kitchen trying to facilitate 5, 10, 12, 14 brands just from one place. With that, ultimately, you've got different cooking styles, different packing styles, causes complication to that operation done badly. Where it's done very well is where you've got a good existing business doing a strong operation, and then they add in a complementary singular brand, maybe a secondary, and then they're just running it in coordinates with their existing operation, not getting too greedy, just trying to create an extra 1,000, 1,500, $2,000 a week, just to add on as supplementary. And then you don't end up with a capacity problem where actually your kitchen's going beyond actually what it can manage, and you need to look at, ulterior locations. That's typically how you see it best then.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, guys. And it nicely leads us on to the ingredients of success as well. We want to try and make sure that you guys can take some things home today. And, we've got some experts in this field, both on the operational and service side and on the technology delivery side. So we want to try and give you some pointers to go, actually, I am doing a virtual brand and I can make some tweaks to my existing operation, or I've got a great product, a great brand that I'm offering with a shop front. Actually, I'm now going to go virtual, and you'll probably speak to some of these guys afterwards. So the 5 ingredients to success, I mean, not from a biased opinion at all, but if you just had Kobas everywhere, it would be great, right? Or just go through, be able to manage your operation, no problem. No, but on a serious note, from a technology point of view in venue, you need something that's agile, because this industry, I think it's still evolving, and I think we're going to see more changes on the horizon as the years come on. So you need something that's going to be able to be flexible and allow you to diversify in the terms of offering that you're delivering. That's what I would say from a technology point of view, from a service delivery. Mate?
I would say pick one brand, maximum 2 brands in your kitchen. Put those brands in the kitchen. Really, really try to focus on the first 6 weeks. The first 6 weeks are going to make it or break it. Invest in marketing, invest in great operations, invest in training. Work with a partner who can support you in all of that, like us or the Lean Kitchen Network, and go from there. After the first 6 weeks, it becomes easier. Your staff will get used to cooking this brand and your own brand, and hopefully you can manage it all next to each other. After that, you can think about a second brand or a third brand, but start small, scale from there.
Yeah. And for us?
So yeah, I'll build off what Mate said. I think 1 or 2 concepts, but actually selecting the brand, so it's a brand that people know, love, and recognize, absolutely helps. Like, we've seen examples where putting in known brands such as Heinz Breckie double, triple the sales of an unknown brand. We've actually run them in parallel to see the sales difference. On-site conversion as well. We've seen big uplifts where you put something that customers know. Obviously, you've got to get the execution right. Hot, fast, high quality is kind of a non-negotiable, but and then working with people that can help support you on the marketing. So you launch it, when you launch and delivery in those first 6 weeks, as well as making sure the ops are right, you need a really well thought through and holistic marketing plan to make sure that everybody knows about the fact that you're live. There's so much competition out there at the moment that you want to launch well and strong.
Obviously, you mentioned about simplicity, both of you have, in regards to the operation and the food that you're delivering to make sure that standards can be high. But obviously, from your point of view, Faraz, you're talking about potentially having a kitchen in a hotel, which might be alien to the chef that's cooking in it. It might be different requirements. Like, how do you make that more simpler for the operator then?
So what we do when there's an on-site offer in an example like a hotel, we'll actually launch that menu first on-site. So the first objective is driving the on-site revenue, the on-site conversion, so that the chefs get trained, the chefs believe that this is their food. This is the most important thing that they're doing. Delivery will then come later, kind of step 2. Once it's stable and the first goal, the quality and everything's there, we'll then add on delivery almost as a kind of new future operating model of that core business. It's not always an extra. It's where we can build it in as a core part of the offer. We see really strong results in quality and also buy-in from the chefs. As everyone here who runs a restaurant knows, engagement and buy-in from the people actually cooking the food is the most important thing. So if you're asking them to do something extra that's outside of their day-to-day, they can't see that link to their core being of why they're there. That it becomes a difficult one to move past.
And Mate, from your point of view, if I'm one of these people sat here today and I've got a complex offering, that only I can do because I'm the best at doing it, like Roti King or something like that, how would you be able to simplify that operation or make it more standardized so that you can onboard that as a license model or whatever it might be?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's very important is we would never take away the entirety of the cooking process from the brand owners. So in a case like
That's what
this,
makes them unique, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That's what makes them unique. That's what gives them soul. That's what drives that uniqueness in the consumer's eyes. So we would probably turn your kitchen, in this case, into a central production unit where you would just produce a little bit more food. We would order directly from you. We would work with you to get your brand to a point where, let's say you're a curry house, you can pre-produce the curries to a point where they can be frozen or not frozen, but in some shape or form that's pre-cooked, shipped into the host kitchens. So the host kitchen can only do a bit of, cook a bit of rice, chop up some vegetables, and then off it goes.
And from your, go on, yeah, sorry, go on first.
On that really quickly on Mate's point, I think that central production, central support, that's accessible through people like Breaks and Bidfood. We spent the last few years getting some really exciting sauces and proteins and flavors that save time in the kitchen and also lead to more complexity. So if you've got kitchens where there's lots of staff turnover or the skill level, over the last few years is harder to find in those kitchens, we find that that's really helpful from an operator perspective.
Yeah, it's very interesting. We're actually seeing a rise on our brands with 3 or 4 venues, or even 50 venues, are actually having CPUs at an earlier stage now, which never used to be the case. Joe, what's your take on the ingredients for success?
Just don't be afraid as well. So if you run an operation that's doing food already, you do some form of takeaway, delivery is not going to be that much different. It's ultimately preparing that food, putting it onto a counter, and then a driver coming to pick up rather than a consumer. So take the risk, dive into it, don't get greedy, go with one brand. And people always come to me and say, what's the USP behind a successful virtual brand? The key part is always marketing, which one's the best marketed. I'll point to Lean Kitchen here now. This is not a shameless plug, but when you work beside like Heinz and when you work beside Walkers and other brands as size, the consumer recognises that already, which just gives consumer confidence to then start ordering, to start increasing those incremental revenues coming in. So again, be brave, minimise it, and give it a try.
Yeah. No, thanks very much. So what does the future look like for these kind of offerings then? Faraz, do you want to take this?
Oh, so definitely, like we've been talking about, consolidation. There's so much competition, fewer, stronger concepts that are driving real value, real focus on customer experience. So with the cost of living crisis, customers are willing to pay more, and we're seeing that. Customers actually still spending, but in return for that, they're expecting elevated experiences, they're expecting better quality. So I think gone are the days of kind of throwing anything out there and expecting it to stick.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit on a tangent, I've been doing some work with another client at the moment, and driving the experience economy now is becoming really important. It's all about capturing that customer initially and then re-engaging with them in a way that's going to entice them back to your brand. I think we were spoilt in a way years and years ago where customers came and went, but now we've got to try and maximise that single customer and make sure that they revisit and actually invest in that brand, be it in venue or on a digital platform as well. Mate?
Yeah, I mean, 100% same echoing for us here, right? Like, the future belongs to a few host kitchens, a few brands that are able to nail the operations and drive those repeat customers. We can always get a first order in. Look at Mr. Beast Burger. Everyone went crazy for it, and they are going crazy for it. But is there a repeat order? Is there something where you can just keep driving it and build up a brand over time? Or should that be left to people who have a passion for that specific cuisine type, for that specific type of dish, who put their soul? It's more of an art form to create a brand, and applying digital and technology to that art, bringing it into solid operators. I think that's very much going to be the future.
And obviously technology is on the forefront of the future, we always say, the bleeding edge. So what are you guys planning then, Joe?
So from our side, we just enable an existing operation to handle multiple channels and multiple menus from one place. And then what we give you the ability to do is take on a virtual brand or a couple of virtual brands or several virtual brands and still control it from the same back office. You can ultimately have one menu driving everything out to multiple different locations or different brands, just keeping the kind of the operational side clean, should we say.
Yeah, and I think just to mirror what these guys are saying, but to really hit it home is when virtual brands came to market, we saw a restaurateur who was good at producing high quality food in venue and great at welcoming guests, tried to go online in a virtual world and assumed it would be the same, but it's actually very different. The technology behind it is different, the service levels are different, the way that you package and produce the food could be different as well. So I think for me, the future is happening, and it's happening with these guys and businesses like them, because they're taking that risk element off you guys. Yes, you're probably giving a cut of the margin, but they're making sure that your brand standards are achieved, and they're delivering on your SLA essentially. So it's less risk with you guys, and you guys can focus on what you have the passion and drive for, which is ultimately that customer-facing approach. And I think that, for me, that kind of resonates with everything that we've been discussing today.
I mean, it's always tricky when you do deliveries, right? Because you don't interact with the customer directly. You have no idea whether they like your food or not, and you cannot correct a mistake. If you've made a mistake, you mixed up the orders, they're never going to come back to you again, ever. It's really, really tough to build loyalty. Whereas if they're on premise, you can give them, a discount or a dessert or whatever you want to do in order to drive that loyalty. So that's where the technology piece comes in to ensure that every single order consistently is always of high quality.
Yeah, no, brilliant, makes sense. To recap then, because we've only had a short while to discuss this topic, but I think we can go on for hours, to be honest with you. So recap tips from our side then. What's your take home for this then, Mate? What's your biggest thing that people should realise when looking at this or doing it?
Yeah. Pick one really, really good brand and a really, really good partner and just get started. It's really easy to onboard. It doesn't cost anything. Most people can match you with a brand that matches your equipment perfectly, that is simple to cook, and within a week or two you can be live with it. And then after 6 weeks, 12 weeks, you'll see. Maybe you decide this is not for you. Maybe you decide this is for you and you want to double down on it. We've seen some host kitchens that became so into this that they even dropped their own brand and now are just cooking virtual brands. So, you never know where it takes you.
Yourself, Joe?
So the online food delivery market is probably the fastest growing. It's in double-digit growth still. It's worth billions of pounds in the UK. If you're a casual dining brand or a restaurant or a hotel with a kitchen, take advantage of it. You get online, get a virtual brand, get in place, and then you've got that new customer set. So it's just take advantage of something that's already existing in there and growing, in a strong place.
And for us?
Yeah, simple operations, focus on execution, quality, accuracy, use the data, and it will work out very well.
Yeah, I think for me, it's going to be tech that's agile. I know Joe and I work quite closely together in a partnership, and we've both got agile products that can diversify to the needs of the market. It has to be the case. You can't go with a non-progressive solutions provider. You need someone that's at the bleeding edge and is listening, is hearing what these guys are doing and what they're needing. Because if they're needing it, you need it to succeed as well. And I think the other bit that we've actually not got on here or no one's mentioned, but has been mentioned throughout the talk, is actually a CPU. I personally have seen now that the requirements when they come through from customers is we have these many sites and we have a CPU, and it's becoming more and more frequent. And I think a lot of businesses are seeing that it helps standardize their operations and makes their food quality easier to manage, especially in the staffing crisis that we have, especially on the chef front. You need to make chefing in venue as simple as possible. And I think that speaks massive volumes. And if you did introduce a CPU, you've got almost that stepping stone to move into that virtual online platform quite easily. So that would be the only other take home that we've all discussed today, and I think we're all in agreement with.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, all our food can be cooked with the existing staff members up until like 10K a week. And after that, you maybe add half a staff member or maybe an extra person, but that's it. And that's key.
Yeah.
So,
cool.
Fully agreed.
No, brilliant. And then, that's a wrap, guys. That's us. There's all our standard information online if you'd like to follow us up. We will stick around after this for any questions or anything. But has anybody got any questions now that they would like to say in front of everybody else? 1 second, she's coming with a mic. We can't hear you because of the mic.
Yeah, thanks for that. That was very insightful. So just a few questions, or one question. So for those who are not as big as Doritos or Heinz, what are the 1 or 2 things that they're doing really well for branding and marketing that we can implement?
So I think, and do you mean when launching your own concept?
In the online space, and launching and during as well too.
So I think, look, when launching your own concept, first focus on the quality of the product, simplicity of operations, and an accuracy of orders. And in terms of marketing your product, I think you need really strong imagery. Think about conversion, measure your conversion, how many people are hitting your page on Uber Eats and how you're converting them, test and learn and improve and iterate. and think about how you're going to engage with your customers. What's your marketing strategy look like? How are you using social media? How are you using TikTok to really engage with those customers to drive awareness to your page? And as Mate said, really nail it in those first 6 weeks, and then things will continue on from that. You've got a bit of a window there to really hit it right. Otherwise, it's harder to get back up. Obviously, it depends on the area as well.
So for the virtual brands, would you create a social media for that as well, would you say?
Potentially. It varies from case to case. I think find the right way to engage with your customers wherever they are, and then take it from there.
It's a different learning curve for me because when you've got a restaurant, you've got a captive audience normally with a physical site, and the client can taste your food and then give reviews out. Whereas the virtual space is crowded. There are thousands of venues online offering multiple platforms as well. So as far as I said, you've got to stand out. So it's not about tasting it first. It's about looking at it and going, I want that over anything else that's there. So I don't think it's a case of looking inwardly. It's looking, I want to do it. Where do you want to do it? What location do you want to do it? And what's there at the moment and what makes you different to them? That's the key bit there.
Also, any operation can bring the brands into their stores as well. A bit of a shameless plug, but Deliverect has a marketplace of virtual brands, where on there you've got Lean Kitchen Network and the best of their brands. You've got Unilever, Sessions Market, Petwater. You have a whole host of other companies who have well-established brands who are well marketed in one place. Again, you can go in there and select and then use that in your existing operation. It's just a virtual brand in place within that existing commercial kitchen.
It's really, really tough to create virtual brands from scratch. It's really, really not easy. We're all venture backed, so we have money to invest into marketing. Or you have to be super, super authentic, right? Like really know your why. Like, why do you create this brand? What does it stand for? What makes it unique? Like, why should I, as a consumer, care about ordering your food over the other, let's say, 50 burger places next to you? What is it? Yeah.
Obviously, you've got these social influencers out there as well. You've got Mr. Beast Burger, and I'm not down in the flow of things, but you've got a lot of influencers out there who've created brands who are getting a huge amount of social media kind of prevalence, which can be tapped into.
I think you'd be a good influencer, Joe, to be honest with you.
What? I'm on LinkedIn.
I'm on LinkedIn.
That's it.
Any other questions, anybody? Well, thank you so much for listening. If you do want to speak to us, we'll be sticking around for 5 minutes afterwards. So, enjoy the rest of your day, guys.